So this is a monthly presentation this month in our native gardens. This is hosted by Wild Ones St. Louis and will be on their YouTube channel in a couple days. And you can also go there and see their past presentations. We've been doing this since January. And this month, there we go. Oh yeah, so this series is was inspired by this book that I wrote, the Wildflower Garden Planner. And so the book goes month by month, and we're sort of going over the book month by month. So you can go to my website, besagrows.com/book, if you want to find out more about that. So this month we're talking about September. This is some goldenrods. This is the month of goldenrods, I think. And I did, when I sent out the email, I asked you guys to think about all the yellow flowers that are blooming in your yard. So we'll be talking about that a little bit later, but you can brainstorm on that in your head while we go through this. So the topics we're going to talk about this month are tree planting. It's tree planting season again. The prairie is inspiration. Seeds to collect this month. The monarch butterflies return. I saw 2 this week. Plants with deep roots. Fall color begins. Designing native pollinator habit. Grasses, sedges, rushes, and ferns. And what to plant this month for more color. And we have a guest this month, and Stacy Arnold is going to talk about rainscaping. And hopefully also the organization that she is representing too, which is a really cool group of people. So tree planting, September is when you can start planting trees again. And I know that it still is kind of hot. We've had a couple of cool days recently, but I would say like by mid-September is a good time to start planting trees. You do still need to water them on hot days though, but fall is a great time to plant your trees and shrubs. It gives them a little bit of head start on the spring so they can leaf out in the spring. The trees are still growing all winter even though they don't have leaves, so it gives them a head start. We're not quite to tree pruning time yet, but that is coming. Once the trees drop their leaves, you can start pruning them, and it's a good time to look at your tree and see where it does need to be pruned. You can see this black cherry here that I planted a little too close to the driveway. It not only is it leaning towards the driveway, but it branched a little lower than I was expecting, and so you can see I've kind of pruned it on the driveway because people keep hitting it with their cars. So it's a little lopsided. So next time I know better. More about tree planting is be sure to look up when you're planting your trees. Make sure that you're not planting under power lines. And know the full size of your tree. Like this tree here is plum tree that's in my yard, and I was trying to plant it to like arch over the pathway, but I neglected to think about how plums have these little spiny spurs coming out of their branches, and so I grow this tree nice and like I let the limbs be nice and low, but if you are taller than 6 foot, you might get your eye poked out by this tree, so it's kind of a hazard also. So I have to cut all the little spurs off the bottom side of the branch. And then also never top a tree. You should all know that though. Topping trees, bad. Here's another tree I planted. This is Kentucky coffee tree. And I planted it here to shade my deck. The Kentucky coffee tree is a great tree for having very dense shade in the summer, but then it has a bipinnately compound leaf, so it loses the most leaf structure in the winter, so it gives the least shade in the winter. So you get the most sun in the winter, least sun in the summer. So it's a great tree for that, for shading your deck or house or whatever. Some of my favorite trees and shrubs. I didn't put a picture of each of these in because we won't have time to go over all of them. But so witch hazel, that's the one that it blooms in the winter. It's a great short tree, well, shrub. Red buckeye is another one. It's good for hummingbirds. The rough-leaf dogwood is has those pretty white flowers, but also actually they're bracts, not flowers, but it grows on the edge of the woodland. Wild plum is great for caterpillars. Wafer ash has a special relationship with the caterpillar. Carolina buckthorn we talked about last month, and I got the genus spelling right this time. The sumac is another good one. It has great fruit for the birds over the winter. Black hawk viburnum is a great spring flower and fall fruiter. Wahoo is two. Serviceberry, redbud is good spring flowers. It is a legume, so it's good for fixing nitrogen. And then the fringe tree also has spring flowers, fall fruit, and they're all under 15, well, under 20 feet tall. So these could go in your power line areas or any place you can't grow a tree that's an oak size. If you have space, you should plant an oak. If you don't, plant one of these guys. And starting yesterday morning, I know most of you are probably up at midnight ordering your trees from MDC. Unfortunately, the wild ones didn't give away trees this year with their group tree bundles, so everyone had to order their own. And they've sold out of beautyberry already. But if you don't have your cheap trees, they just give you like little sticks of trees, but they grow into full-size trees in no time. Head to this website, pick up your cheap trees. We also have a whole bunch of upcoming native plant sales. And put in the chat if you know any that I didn't write down here. That's September 6th. That's this Friday. Shaw Nature Reserve's having their plant sale. The next day, Saturday, the Crest Farm Preserve is having plant sale. They're down in Hillsboro. Monarch Madness is the next weekend on the 14th. That's up at Weldon Springs. The St. Louis Community College has a sale on the 21st. And Tower Grove Park, the Bring Conservation Home sale expo is September 22nd. Did we get any other sales in the chat there? I can't see it.
I don't see
If you hear of any others,
Besa?
let me know. Yeah. I heard someone say Besa. Oh, it's Penny. Do you have a sale, Penny? All right, so this is a great month to go to the prairie to find your inspiration. One of the things I really like about the prairie is that at the different soil types in the prairie cause different types of plants to bloom in the different areas. So like if it's a wet area because there's a spring, or maybe it's a low spot and it has richer soil, you'll end up with totally different plant species. So you get these kind of like artistic bushes all over the place, which is great for landscaping design also because it seems like humans think those are really beautiful. So go look at a prairie, notice the swooshes and or drifts. Drifts is a better name. So look for some drifts and see how you can incorporate that into your backyard landscape. Is Brenda on here? Are you doing any hikes to prairies in the near future?
Well, I've been working on one. It's a private prairie, about 11 acres outside of closer to Herman, so it's a little bit of a drive. We haven't set a date yet, but it sounds like a nice prairie mowed paths. He has a historic 1868 one-room schoolhouse there that's also available to look at. It's looking like that'll probably be the beginning of October. Probably in September, though, we'll go out to Shaw Nature Reserve and walk through the prairie there and the woodland, as well as the Whitmire Garden is what we're hoping to do, but a date hasn't been set for that either.
I hope in October you get a date with less chiggers. You know, that's the downfall of the prairie. In the summer is the chiggers.
Yeah, use lots of bug spray.
Yeah. At Shaw Nature Reserve, usually the paths are pretty well maintained, so you're less likely to get some chiggers there. So I heard this quote recently, prairies are the best pollinator gardens that we have. So Mike Leahy said so. Seeds to collect this month. I'm not going over all these. You can freeze frame this when the video comes out, but at the top of the list here, we have the milkweeds. They are actually ripe now. I've been collecting the swamp common and butterfly milkweeds out of my yard, and I've been bagging those up. I'm bringing them to Monarch Madness, so if you want to pick up a little packet of any of those species, come see me at Monarch Madness. So milkweed seeds, you want to collect them before they fluff. And the way I do that is before they start to open, like when they're just like a crack open, you can pull it apart, pull the whole chunk of milkweed out, and just scrape with your fingernail, scrape the brown seeds off of the fluff, and then leave a little bit less mess. I know I was harvesting earlier and I was sweating and the fluff was everywhere and I was just like covered in milkweed fluff. It's like covered in cat hair, except it was milkweed fluff. Monarch butterflies are coming through and I've seen a couple of them in my yard. They're hanging out in the milkweed. I haven't seen any eggs yet, but I know that I have seen a couple of Facebook posts of people dutifully collecting their eggs and making sure that they're safe, protecting them, and making sure the caterpillars have plenty of food to eat. Do we have any questions right now?
We had a few sales mentioned. There's
Good.
the Missouri. Sorry, do you want to read those out now or just for questions?
Yeah, you can read them.
It's the Susan said that the Missouri Prairie Foundation has a plant sale on September 28th. And that's on Watson Road. And Penny says that in Crestwood on Watson Road on September 26th. There's another sale.
It's actually the same sale.
Oh.
It's just Susan got the wrong date.
Oh, okay. The September 26th Missouri Prairie Foundation sale, 3:30 to 6:30.
Yeah, I went to that last year and it was a fun sale.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I forgot that one.
That she's collecting royal catchfly seeds.
Me too, and lots of butterfly milkweed seed.
Mm-hmm.
I guess you're covered in fluff also then, probably. There's nothing worse than getting milkweed fluff up your nose. It's really hard to get out again.
Oh, that sounds awful.
One time, yeah, anyway, I can't tell you all the places I've had seeds, like in my ears and stuff, but we're not going to go into that. So, um, so Stacy's going to talk in a little bit here after I go over this slide. But one of the things that you can do in your yard to manage water and to help absorb water, help release it slowly into your soil is to grow plants with really deep root systems. And this graphic here is I'm sure you've all seen this. This is the prairie roots. So on the far left is lawn grass with the little puny roots. And then we have some like lead plant and other, these grasses, these native prairie plants have amazing deep root systems that allow them to bring up nutrients and water from deeper levels. And then they help bring that into your garden for the insects to eat and the birds to eat the insects and, circle of life. So I'm going to switch over here to Stacy's presentation.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? If you're not muted, you may need to mute because it gets fuzzy if others are unmuted.
Now, Laura, you might want to go through and mute people. All right.
Can you hear me okay? Thumbs up. Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Stacy Arnold. I'm a watershed planning consultant in the St. Louis region for a number of different organizations now. However, I'm here tonight to give this talk representing Missouri Botanical Garden and their Deer Creek Watershed Alliance project. Overall, my presentation will focus on rainscaping, which is landscaping with a purpose. I'm sure you're all familiar, and really honing in on improving soil health, infiltration, and water quality through rainscaping in your yard. Next slide. So as I mentioned, the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance is a project of Missouri Botanical Garden. So what do we want to accomplish? The mission of the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance is to assess and improve water quality with a focus on not only native plant-based solutions, but also native soil. So keeping that native soil in place, which is perfectly paired with the native plants, and improving the soil health that way. So very simplistic. And what do we know? So in terms of the Deer Creek watershed, there's all or part of 21 municipalities in St. Louis County. If you're not sure what a watershed is an area of land where if a drop of water hits the ground within that dotted line, it will eventually drain into the larger body of water. So the Deer Creek watershed is 37 square miles. So anytime a drop of water hits that ground, it eventually makes its way into Deer Creek, and then into the River Des Peres, and then into the Mississippi River. So what we do in our own backyards in the St. Louis area have an impact on the Gulf, the ocean, and the Mississippi River, and then the ocean. So we can improve that hypoxia zone. And so this just shows what the hydrologic cycle looks like before construction and then after. And so kind of speaking to what Besa was saying in terms of having plants there to help absorb the water, pre-construction, we had a lot of trees, a lot of evapotranspiration, canopy interception. The surface runoff area in this graphic, as you can see, is very small. And then after construction and the addition of all the impervious surfaces, we're decreasing the amount of trees, so decreasing that evapotranspiration, canopy interception, and greatly increasing surface runoff. So what can we do about that? Next slide. And how do we measure our success? So the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance in the beginning years, it started in 2008 when a group of concerned citizens approached Missouri Botanical Garden and said, hey, will you sponsor our work? And then between like 2010, 2012, we installed the very first demonstration rain gardens. And this one in particular, there were two in University City and Creve Coeur, where these were projects that were more residential style. And so going back to that map of the watershed, what I failed to mention is the watershed is primarily single family homes within that area. And so this particular demonstration project and the Creve Coeur project really were the most valuable ones for us because it was working watershed and getting them to install different types of rainscaping features in their backyard to reduce the runoff. And so this is a group of rain gardens in a single neighborhood drainage area where the landowner at the bottom of the hill that has the M in the yard, and that's actually the monitoring station, was getting flooded. Next slide. And so what we learned from this, because there was monitoring being done, is that there was basically very little water to monitor after that neighborhood style rain gardens got installed in all those backyards. And so what you see is pre-BMP, the peak stage was much higher. So that's the amount of water making its way to the bottom of the hill than it was after the BMPs were installed. BMPs or rainscaping features, and BMP stands for best management practices. So rain garden type comparison, right feature, right place. So we really focus on those native soil rain gardens where you're really working to improve the soil structure and the health of the soil versus the engineered larger style bioretention rain gardens where you're looking for that immediate high impact by just improving the soil texture. And those are very expensive to install, expensive to maintain, and over time, the functionality of engineered rain gardens decreases because the systems get clogged, where with the native soil rain gardens, they only improve over time because those plants establish and build the organic matter in the soil and really work on improving that soil structure through all the interactions that we're going to talk about. So USGS did a 5-year study, which we also have an EP, you can move forward, Besa. We have an EPA accepted 9-element watershed management plan. There's only 10 in the state of Missouri, and I was a primary author on the plan that just got approved in 2023. And so we reference the study in the watershed plan as a means to show more measurable results. So this study was done in Wisconsin or Madison, Wisconsin, where there's a similar annual rainfall. And you can see they did a paired rain garden study where one was turf with the native clay soil, and one they added prairie plants to the native clay. And so the initial infiltration rate that there was within the turf rain garden was 0.2 inches per hour, but with the addition of the prairie plants, it bumped it up to 0.88 inches per hour. So really improving just by adding that plant material and those deep roots. And soil really is nature's pipeline. A healthy soil is nature's pipeline and way more permeable. Next slide, Besa. Is it stuck? And so
I think
here's
this is-
that graphic again showing how deep the native plant root. Huh? Next slide.
I'm seeing the impact of soil structure on
So that's just the
infiltration.
graphic again. That's showing really deep roots. Right there.
Sorry, Stacy, you're breaking up a bit. If
So the
everything
deep
there
root
is
zones
now-
are really important. And mute Besa in Zoom 7.
I wonder if we can turn off all the videos on everyone. Maybe that'll help with the audio for Stacy.
And I've got my phone ready to plug in if that's a problem, but you're unmuted, Besa. Okay, can you hear me now? If there's still an issue, let me know. Otherwise, I'll keep going. I'll keep an eye on the chat and maybe it'll pop up if you're not hearing me. So the deep roots, that's a very important to think about, because if you add those prairie plants, you're increasing the depth of that root zone. So you're increasing the depth of organic matter because you have waste and residue from those plant roots sloughing off. And then also there's these interactions going on where fungi have a symbiotic relationship with the plant roots, and they provide water and nutrients to the plants, and the plants provide sugar to the fungi, and they're extending those root systems greatly through the mycorrhizal networks. And so that's increasing the amount of water uptake and the depth that these plant roots are working into the ground. Next slide, please. And so these are two beakers, one with low organic matter and one with high. Next slide, Besa. You can kind of pop through these. And then after adding water, you can see with the high organic matter, they're water stable aggregates. So there was water in between that pore space, and the soil that had a lot less organic matter just collapsed. And so every 1% increase in organic matter results in as much as 25 gallons of available soil water per acre. And so really increasing that sponge-like, result that we want to see by improving that soil health. Next slide. And also the substance that the fungi secretes is called glomalin. So they secrete a soil glue that helps bind the soil particles and organic matter together. Next slide. And so that's why you saw with the water got it added that those water stable aggregates stuck together. Doug Peterson has an amazing demo. I have a video that goes with it. If you ever want to watch that, I'd be happy to share. But what it shows is with the disturbed soil, you have very little infiltration as opposed to the management intensive grazing with native. In the back are the infiltration, in the front are the runoff. And the disturbed soil, a lot of people think by tilling and working the soil and fluffing it up, you're increasing that pore space. But what you're really doing is chopping up all that glomalin and the fungi and disturbing the soil health. Next slide. So aggregate stability, that's a term that Doug wants you to learn, what I want you to learn. When you have good aggregate stability by having good soil health and having, these deep root zones, organic matter, the fungi, which you can add mycorrhizal inoculates, but by just having those prairie plants, you're going to be providing the right habitat for that to happen. And you get those water stable aggregates. So on the left-hand side, my left, looking at this picture, that soil doesn't have good aggregate stability. It just fell apart. But on the other one, it's not even starting to fall apart. And that's a healthy soil with lots of organic matter, natives, and all the interactions going on that we're looking for. Next slide. So this is a nice quote. The quality of life depends on the food we eat, the water we drink, and the air we breathe. All those things depend on the quality of the soil. Charles Combe. And so we do have on Missouri Botanical Gardens website a rainscaping guide. You can keep going with 11 different best management practices. There are 2 rainscaping cost share and grant programs that Missouri Botanical Garden administers. So if you're somewhere within the MSC service area, you could qualify for one of those. If you're not within the service area, you can always reference the guide, but be sure to check that out. I don't know what that it was the benefits of trees, I believe. So once again, deep root zones, we have the canopy interception and the roots soaking up the water, reducing that runoff greatly. Keep going, Besa. And whenever you do install rainscaping, we ask you protect your trees. So nothing can get installed if you're digging down into the ground and creating a basin, doing something like a rain garden or permeable pavers. You want to make sure you're outside of that drip zone, because trees are huge when it comes to managing stormwater. Next slide. And this is just, we tagged trees many years ago. I can't even remember when, during the UN Year of the Tree. And we tagged them with various benefits. In a large oak, which was tagged, it was a Quercus species, 12,436 gallons of excess water runoff in 1 year. Okay, Besa. Next slide. And so here's where you can look at different examples of projects. This is a DIY. A master naturalist, I believe, used broken up concrete from around our yard to create these rock weirs on a steep slope. Next slide. Here's where another neighbor caught on to this. This is in Webster Groves, and installed the project in the foreground to build on that project and install a rain garden basin as well. Next slide. Here's a before. Next slide. And the after, and this is by Algonquin Golf Club. Golf course. Next slide. So really helping to capture that water. Since that got installed, there was no, erosion happening on the trail in the background. And since the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance Initiative began the first planting efforts about 15 years ago, now we have more than 487 installations in the ground, and we are tracking load reductions for those as part of our requirements. Next slide. And this is just a map showing all of those different projects, and it doesn't include what's also being installed through the MSD Rainscaping Small Grants Program, which Missouri Botanical Garden also administers, which I said is MSD service area wide. So reach out and let us know. You can go to mobot.org/rainscaping to visit that guide. And then also, I'm sure you can just Google search Missouri Botanical Garden Rainscaping and find the direct line to get in touch with us, or Besa knows how to contact me. And we're just this is a water quality improvement project, capturing rain where it falls. And so that is it. I do want to end by saying one of those 487 projects is a seeded prairie at the entrance to the St. Louis Country Club, which is at Price and Sunningdale. I'd be happy to meet your group out sometime, Besa, if you want to take a tour of that prairie. It's in its 3rd year. It's doing great. I'd be happy to show you guys around.
Thanks, Stacy. Yeah, so Brenda's the one who organizes the tour hike things, so I can put you and Brenda in touch, and
That would be
I'll
great.
come too. So one of the things, so the Deer Creek watershed covers a lot of Webster Groves, and I just love driving through Webster. There's so many native gardens there, and like every street has a native garden on it, and I think that has a lot to do with the Deer Creek Watershed Alliance getting the word out about how great native plants are for solving many of your problems, stormwater, etc.
And I'm realizing your parents were one of our first grants that were awarded in the very first iteration of the program. Yeah.
Yep.
They have a rain chain, I remember.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
Thanks for
and
having me.
Webster Groves is going to be the area of the native plant garden tour in 2025. So we're going to be seeing a lot of your rain garden areas probably on that tour.
Sounds good. Remember to do your question session.
Yeah,
And
who has questions for Stacy?
Thanks.
Oh,
okay.
Stacy.
Thanks.
Okay.
I do have a question. When is the next round of Deer Creek Watershed Alliance Rainscaping Grants open?
Okay. Can you guys still hear me okay? Okay. So the next round rolls out the beginning of next year. So we'll have round 2025. And so typically new materials are posted by March of the year that the round starts, with applications typically being due, because we haven't set the timeline yet, but it stays the same pretty much every year. So applications being due, I think, in June. So just keep an eye out for the webpage. If you're familiar with it, it's deercreekalliance.org/rainscaping. Or no, /cost-share. I'm sorry. deercreekalliance.org/cost-share. And the materials usually get posted by March along with the timeline. February, March. But MSD is a rolling basis. So the MSD Small Grants Program is a rolling basis. They do have that cost share piece, the rebates up to $4,500, and you have to do the 75%, 25% cost share of that. So if you do a $6,000 project, you could possibly get the full $4,500, but you have to put out $1,500. Whereas with the MSD Rainscaping Small Grants Program, you could just apply for up to what the grant's for. And it's a rolling basis, much wider service area. So you got two good options.
Thank you. And there are no other questions.
I wish I could apply for the Project Clear grant money, but I'm already 100% native, so I can't.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for coming, Stacy. And
so no grass left, Bess. Yeah.
Nope, I'm 100% lawn free now.
Yeah, I will drop. Okay, so I will drop in the chat the contact stuff for the rainscaping team. That way you guys can find it and the link to the Deer Creek page before I close out.
Thanks, Stacy. Is it the same process for the River De Pere watershed? I'm in Webster, but I'm not in River in the Deer Creek watershed area.
So the River De Pere watershed.
So the
would
River De
be
Pere,
the MSD grant, which is Project Clear.
yeah,
And I
I'll
think
drop
same
both
thing.
of them. They're
Yeah.
both administered by my team at Missouri Botanical Gardens. So I'll drop the links to both pages for both programs, as well as the contact information for the team that administers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So if anybody else on here is in South Webster, you're probably not in the River De Pere. I mean, in the Deer Creek, you're probably in the River De Pere.
Yeah, they have a map on the website where you can put in your address and it'll tell you which grants you're eligible for.
Okay, thanks, Besa.
Okay, back to my presentation. So fall color is beginning. I've seen a little bit of fall color. My plum tree has some red leaves on it. My sumac is starting to change a little bit. My serviceberry has some yellow leaves. And so things that have early fall color would be the sassafras sumac, Virginia creeper, black gum, bittersweet, dogwood. And this one pictured here is one of the annuals I talked about last month. That's the waxweed, the Hufea. And I just love its fall color. The flowers are like, so if you can see my cursor, there's a flower right here. I think that's a little tiny flower, but the red leaves is just what sells this plant for me. It's lovely. Designing native pollinator habitat. So a couple of things when you're designing a garden to attract pollinators, you have to think about like the insects, like how far can they fly between flowers that they need? And different insects have better flight plans. I've really been into watching slow-mo photography of insects flying recently. There's some great YouTube videos, and beetles are hilarious. They have no control over where they're going, but they just can't
Who
fly
was
that
that?
far.
What has no control?
The beetles,
Oh.
the beetles are like, they jump and hope.
Hmm.
But wind like has a lot to do with it, like how high they get before they jump off their plant. But so you need to think about how far, like what pollinators you're looking for and how far your food selection for them is from the next dining area. And a way to get more pollinators to come is to have groups of plants. So if you have like a gentian or something and you're trying to get a specific bumblebee to come to it, you might need more than one bloom to attract them. Like they need to be able to scent it or see it from above. So the more flowers you have in a group, like 3 foot or larger grouping, you're more likely to attract the insects you're looking for. So I read about all this on the Xerces Society page. It's a great resource. It's Xerces starts with an X, Xerces or something like that. If somebody would put that in the chat, that would be great. The Xerces website. So if you go to the Grow Native website, they have Butterfly Garden landscape plan for you, and you can see they have these big patches of same species just to help the insects forage. And when you put them in blocks together, it's easier for the insects to find. It's more efficient for them to go plant to plant. They just have to lie an inch and there's another bloom right there. Also, different pollinators like different types of plant structures. So that you can see these beetles, they are on this goldenrod that has like a open flower, like you just grab on, land on it, the nectar is right there. You can fumble your way around. And I see like there's like 4 different types of pollinators in this picture. So it's a plant that is more of a generalist pollinator food buffet. But you can also find species like bumblebees. They have really long tongues, and they can, and butterflies, they can go to different plants that have longer tubes as part of their flower. And so this is a video of a bee coming out of obedient plant here. So they really have to pry that plant apart, crawl in there to go get the pollen. And you have to be a strong bee to get in there. And it's not for honeybees or any wimpy bees. You gotta be a big, strong bumblebee. And this is just the way that the plant has developed specialization to make sure that they're more likely to get pollinated. So if this bumblebee just goes from one obedient plant to the next because it knows that there is nectar in there, because it's the only species that can get it open, they're more likely to get pollinated. Also, we have invasive insects. This is one of those Chinese mantids. And if you see these in your yard, you're allowed to cut their heads off. Okay. Make sure you know the difference between native and invasive mantis, though, before you go cutting heads off. But they're big. This guy, he's stalking a bumblebee. There was also a couple ants that were trying to run him off. You can see one of the ants here. When I took the photo, the bumblebee saw me and he ran away, but the mantis is, I think he's maybe looking at this ant now. I don't know. Okay, we're going to go over some grasses, sedges, rushes, and ferns. And I didn't have photos of all of these, so I went to the Grow Native website again, and we're going to look at their photos. So having this greenery is good for the backbone of your landscape. Having green leaves helps your plants, your flowers stand out better. In this photo, we have the mist flower and then also the palm sedge. And the palm sedge just kind of makes the mist flower look better, I think. And having that greenery and different texture, kind of a lime green, goes well with the purple. So first of my favorite grasses, then we've got and I love the grasses. They have these like little flowers that are tiny. You look at them with a microscope, and yeah, the grasses are important for birds. Good forage for grasshoppers, stuff like that. So prairie dropseed, that's a nice. I really like putting prairie dropseed as edging along the path because it's nice and short. It has a tall flower head, but most of the year it's a very short grass that's dense, keeps the weeds out. Also, little blue stem is a great plant. The blue color is great in winter. It provides lots of shelter for baby rabbits in my yard. Canada wild rye is another really cool looking seed head, and there's something about wild rye and sunsets that is very romantic to me. And side oats grandma I also think is another cool looking seed head. And these guys, they all are pretty easy to grow and pretty easy to find in the landscape trade. I think a lot of the garden centers, they focus more on the pretty flowers and they can neglect some of these other parts of the garden. So there is less species available, but I know you can find these guys. So here's some of my favorite sedges. So first one is, I call it gray sedge, but here it is called clove sedge. It's like a little, like in a mace. It makes these really cool globes with spikes. It likes a little bit of a wetter area. This one, if you're seed collecting it, you need to wear gloves because each of the spikes has a um, little prickle on the end. They're not going to like get your legs while you're walking through, but seed collecting can be painful. There's Pennsylvania sedge, which is great for roadsides. It's very salt tolerant, so you can put it along your road if you're worried about trying to trap salt as it comes off the street in the winter. Oak sedge, cedar sedge are really cute little sedges that you can put around trees. Oak sedge is more for in oak areas, and cedar sedge is more for more of a cedar glade area, hence the names. There's also so many other little cute sedges, and if you find them at stores, as long as they're native, you should try them out in your yard. Palm sedge, that's the one I had in the first photo. It's just very tropical looking with these like 3 whorled leaves that it has. And it has a nice seed head too. Tussock sedge. I have a lot of this one in my yard. It's great for stormwater management. It really keeps my soil in place.
I have some of that in my rain garden.
Yeah. So some rushes. Don't forget the rushes. So a soft rush. This is really great. I was having some erosion in my yard. I planted one soft rush and it made a huge difference. So it was like at the bottom of the downspout. I had a washout. I stuck one soft rush in the middle of it and the washout was gone. These things are great at absorbing water, holding the soil, and they look really cool. And I have in my blogs, one of my blogs is about how to turn a rush into a lantern. It involves like soaking it in grease and then lighting it on fire. But apparently they did that in the old days. So you can learn more about that in my blog. So scouring rush and giant cane. Both of these are things you don't want to release into your yard without knowing consequences. They both will travel a lot. They're good for maybe container gardens or people with a lot of property. You find these along rivers a lot. They're both very cool. I love scouring brush. It's such a neat texture. And I've used it for scouring before when I go on a river float trip. A couple of these are great for washing the dishes after dinner. Giant cane is also a really cool plant. It makes great habitat, but it does, both of these travel by rhizomes and they'll just take over your whole yard if you're not careful. So container gardening or giant spaces. Don't put this on the border of your plant, your neighbor, or the border of your yard, because your neighbor will hate you. Don't be that neighbor. Ferns. So shady gardens. If you're in Webster Groves, you probably have a shade garden. Might want some ferns. The sensitive fern and ostrich fern are both traveling ferns. They grow by rhizomes. They will take over a large space. They're great if you're trying to cover land quickly, like maybe for that creek bed area. You took out your honeysuckle, you need a sedge or a fern there to grow in the shade and stabilize the soil. So sensitive fern and ostrich fern both are winners for that. And it's easy to go find a friend and ask them if they have either of these, and you can go dig some up and plant them in your yard. Christmas fern is really cool because it's green until Christmas. This is not such a rapid colonizer. If you want something a little bit better behaved and more evergreen, Christmas fern is pretty cool. And then maidenhair fern is a delicate little fern for your garden to grow in between your other shade garden things. It's so pretty. And then all those ferns, they make these really cool fertile fronds that stand up all winter. And neat dried plant thing. I like to put them in dried plant arrangements. And So now we are to the color part. So if you're looking for more color this month, try planting red cardinal flower. We went for that a lot last month. It's been blooming for a couple months now. If you don't have cardinal flower in your yard, you should get some. Purple is the blazing star. Been seeing so many pictures of Liatris. It's so pretty. Butterflies love it. It's good at falling over in the wind, so you might need some stabilization or plant it with some little blue stem. It looks great with little blue stem. Here's some pink. We've got turtle head, purple coneflower. That's a phlox. Blue lobelia back here. I guess that's pink purple. Got some blues. The skull cap is blooming right now. This is another one that needs a bigger bee to get into that flower head and open it up to get to the goodies inside. And the skull cap, not only is it blooming right now, but it's also making seeds. So if you have skull cap, go out there, collect some seeds. You have to get them before they explode.
And hummingbirds love it too.
Yes. This is blue lobelia in 3 shades of not blue. So the blue on the right is normal blue lobelia color, or maybe even a darker than a normal blue lobelia, but it also comes in white and pink. You never know what you're going to get from year to year, though. It doesn't come back exactly the same. I don't know if this was a nutrient deficiency or what, but it's cool. Blue lobelia is a cool plant. Yellow. All right, so this is when you're going to put in the chat everything that's blooming yellow in your yard. So I have goldenrods. I have the cliff goldenrod starting. I have blue stem goldenrod. I have ashy coneflower or ashy sunflower. I have brown-eyed Susans, black-eyed Susans, green-eyed, Texas green eyes. What else do you guys have? I see cup plant, sweet coneflower, cliff goldenrod, brown-eyed Susans, coreopsis. Oh yeah, I have lanceleaf coreopsis. That's another one. Tall coreopsis, western sunflower. There's so much yellow going on right now, but look like yellows look great together. You see this picture? We got some, I guess this is like oxide sunflower probably, and some goldenrod. And it's 2 different textures of yellow. They look great. Sweet Rebecca, golden glow. Oh yeah, I saw a lot of golden glow along the river. Okay, it is planting season. This is a photo of my me being filthy. Again, so September is a good time to be muddy and wet. Mostly muddy right now, but it's time to plant. And so all these plant sales are coming up. You get your plants, you're going to get your trees and shrubs, get them in the ground. If you're planting spring bloomers, you can divide them right now and move them around your yard so that you'll have lots of spring flowers in the spring. It's also a good time to dig up your invasive species. I did some honeysuckle killing this weekend and Japanese hops and some beefsteak. Invasives are so annoying. Oh, I've got more yellow coming in here. Prairie dock. I saw cup plant blooming. Texas prairie aster. Rebecca fulgida. Golden glow. we have any other questions?
We do. We have a couple of email questions. One question is, will plants that have been gobbled up by rabbits come up next spring, and will their roots hold up?
Probably. It depends on whether they're able to get enough nutrients before being eaten by rabbits in order to survive the winter and come back up. But I wouldn't give up on them. I would maybe try to protect them next year. I know that those like wire cages that you put your hanging plants in, if you turn them upside down, they make good barriers to protect the rabbits from eating your plants, depending on how voracious your rabbits are. But plants are used to being grazed. That's what they've evolved for. Like the bunnies and the plants evolved together. So they should be able to survive that. But if it's year after year of them being chopped down before they can store up their winter nutrients, then they won't survive that forever.
Another question from email. My newer service berries leaves all turned yellow while we were away over a long weekend. I gave it a lot of water today and hope that it will recover. It had been looking good so far. Fingers crossed. Was this a question from last time? I don't know. It's similar. It's similar, but I have the same problem. Mine also turned yellow. So
your service berry?
Well, I transplanted it this year.
My service berry has lost all of its leaves already. It's done. I think that season just triggered it, and it's done.
Okay.
Done for the winter.
So we should see it come back.
Also, like we had so much wet heat earlier, and then we had a little bit of a dry spell, and plants might have been like, I'm done with this.
We have a few.
I'm not worried about my service berry being harmed by that. It's going to be fine next year.
Nice. Few things. Penny is letting us all know there's a rain garden in her front yard, which we can all see next Wednesday evening or Saturday morning. It captures rain from 3 downspouts. Is that a Wild Ones meeting on the 14th?
Yes, it is.
Nice. Stacy has shared those links in the chat. If you need them, you can find them there. We do have another question. Oh, no. And then where you can send more questions. And that is all. Oh, no, wait, we have one more. Prairie Doc, many things are failing near a maple tree. Any insight on that? Besa?
Too much shade?
Yeah, it could be too much shade. Maple trees also have really shallow root systems, so maybe they are competing for the nutrients in the water. Like trees, some trees or some plants actually, they don't really want competition to be taking their soil space, and they actually produce chemicals. Like we all heard about walnuts, like they produce the juglans to keep the plants around them from growing. And there's plenty of other trees that have chemical warfare as well on their neighbors. So, or it could just be that like some species, they might affect some species and not others. Maybe try sedges.
That is all of the questions we have so far.
All right. So our next meeting is October. I can't believe it's like fall already. So I'll probably see you guys all at plant sales in the meantime. But otherwise, I'll see you guys October 2nd at 7 p.m. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Besa.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Besa.
Go play outside, guys.